As an Orlando native, I'm keenly aware of what it's like to live in a place where almost everyone else is visiting. And that's one thing I have in common with my guest on this episode. Nathan Strack works in marketing and communications for Pinehurst Resort in North Carolina, a venue that dates back to the 19th century. Pinehurst and its legacy in American golf is paralleled by very few. It's equal parts championship venue and buddy trip capital of the world. And Nathan is the one holding the camera.
I demand satisfaction.
My name is Whit Watson, and this is Media Credentials. I'm a sports announcer who's worked a lot of places. This podcast will peel back the layers of sports media and show you how the sausage gets made. Through interviews with industry pros and my own experience, you'll understand why you're seeing what you're seeing and who's responsible for it. Your media credentials have been approved. Pinehurst is one of the most popular golf destinations in the world. Located southwest of Raleigh, due east of Charlotte, the resort maintains 9 championship golf courses and a 9-hole short course. Pinehurst also has a prestigious championship resume. The PGA Championship was there in 1936, the Ryder Cup in 51, 3 U.S. Opens with 5 more scheduled, including next year. The U.S. Women's Open was there in 2014, and it's coming back in 2029. And next year, the USGA will open new headquarters at Pinehurst, not far from the resort's clubhouse. Pinehurst has rightfully been termed the cradle of American golf, and my guest has the enviable task of helping maintain that brand. Nathan Strack is the production designer for Pinehurst Resort. He played competitively in high school and was recruited to play Division I golf. His job combines his passion for the game with his skills in visual arts. It's a different form of media. His audience is both internal and external. Nathan Strack holding up a lens to the home of golf in the U.S. Nathan, thanks a lot for coming on. You are my first road game. I'm talking to you from a hotel in Stamford, Connecticut, where I'm working for Golf Channel this week. So tell me your current job description and how you came to join the Pinehurst Resort.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for having me on the show, Whit. It's an honor to be here and awesome to be your first road game. I've been known for being a bit of a maverick in my career, so happy to be breaking that barrier for you. But yeah, so my current position, I am the production designer for Pinehurst Resort, which for many of your listeners who probably know about the golf industry, is the cradle of American golf. And I came to this position back in November of 2022 after about an 8-month stint actually working for the PGA Tour. They had me out at TPC Summerlin in Las Vegas doing some multimedia stuff for them. And so now I'm just going on about 8.5, 9 months here in Pinehurst, and it's been pretty awesome.
When you say multimedia, what do you mean? Like, what exactly do you do?
My official listed position was marketing assistant, and that's actually a very common position with the PGA Tour. They have a marketing assistant at, I believe, every single one of their TPC properties. And basically, that marketing assistant can do anything from hardline sales, where they're cold calling people to talk about, would you like to join your local TPC club? Or, hey, you're thinking about joining the club, let me give you a tour. All the way from me to things that were a little bit more on the media side, as far as I got a lot of use out of my graphic design background. So I was doing a lot of the emails for the club, poster advertisements. TPC Summerlin hosts the Shriners Invitational every year. And so when that tournament came around, which was in October every year, I got to be a little bit more involved on the planning and execution and promotion side of that, and then as well as the photography with my background in that. When I talk about multimedia, I say that really my job description was ebbing and flowing. It never really was the same thing every day. That's kind of the truth of my life, is I've honestly kind of lived in that gray zone of every day is a little bit different, and I always say that I thrive in the chaos. So I find that the days where I'm most busy are the days where I'm typically getting just the most amount of work done, and that's kind of where that terminology comes from.
So it sounds like you've got an art and design background. What did you study?
Yeah, so I attended Charleston Southern University, spent all 4 years there, and the reason actually that I even found that school in the first place was because I was recruited to play D1 golf for them, and unfortunately, due to a coaching change during my transitioning summer, as in the summer I was going into my freshman year, that coach decided to redo the roster, and for reasons that myself and several people close to me in my golf camp still don't really understand to this day, he wanted nothing to do with me. Wasn't even willing to give me a chance to try out for the team. And so that was how I found that school in the first place. And then I ended up graduating in 2021 with a degree in graphic design and a minor in Christian studies. So that's kind of where the art side of me really took form, and really got a lot of opportunities there at that school to express that side of myself and find a bit more of a niche in that segment.
Would you say that you're a golfer that found design as a career, or a designer that found golf as a passion?
Definitely the first one. Golf has always, not always, I should preface that, golf has a long time been a passion of mine. I laugh because I have an older brother who's about 16 months older than me, and him and I have been opposites in a lot of things. And what's funny is he was a big golfer when he was younger, really enjoyed the game. He was always a very naturally talented player. I mean, he's the kind of kid who will touch a club once every 3 months, but the 3 times a year he plays, he still shoots a 75.
I hate those guys.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's the most annoying because I'm out here as a +3, +4 handicap grinding every day, and he still has a bit of giving me a run for my money. So, yeah, we have some nice friendly competitions for sure. But one of the things that we did a real big swap on was when he was younger, he loved the game. And then as he started playing through high school and, we got to play together being only a year apart in school terms, he started kind of losing the passion for the competitive side. And at that same time, I started gaining the passion for the competitive side. And I think I was 11 or 12 when I first said to my dad, hey, I want to go be a PGA Tour player. And I just remember that was like a moment in my life where that became the focus, where I said, okay, golf is what I want to do. Golf's what I'm going to be in. And one of the things I've said to a lot of people is I've battled injuries throughout my career. I've even taken intentional time away from the game. My junior year of college, especially not being a rostered college athlete, I kind of had the freedom to say, listen, I don't have any responsibility to the game of golf right now, but I do have a responsibility to myself and to my future career to make sure that I get my grades to the right position and graduate on time. So I took my entire junior year of college off of golf. I don't think I even touched a club, maybe more than once or twice in the entire 7.5, 8 months that I was in school. And to this day, I think that was a great decision, but a hard one nonetheless. But either way, golf was where it started, and golf's where it's going to finish. But I've always said that through the trials and tribulations of my career and having to take time off for various reasons, I've always found a way to still be around the golf industry, and that is something I don't think is ever going to change for me.
What is a typical work week for you at Pinehurst, or is there a typical work week?
Yeah, I think that's a tough question to answer because I don't think there is a typical work week. I mean, take today, for example. I come in, I've got my list of things to do that are left over from last week or new things that have come in over the weekend. And, I work pretty closely personally with the F&B department, food and beverage, that is. And so, they work over the weekend. So a lot of times I'll come into several new things on my to-do list from them over the weekend. But, come in this morning, get in at 8 o'clock, ready to do, my normal thing. And Matt Gibson, our director of photography and video, walks into my office. He goes, "What are you doing in like 15 minutes?" "No, just doing some photo editing, getting some other stuff ready. What's going on?" "You want to go drive a BMW around for an hour or so? We got to do this promotional shoot, trying to get ready for the BMW Championship this week." And yeah, okay. So at 10 o'clock, I'm driving down the road with my buddy and coworker hanging out the back of my BMW, trying to get a cool shot of us. And I'm like, this is what I do for a living. I don't know how to describe it, but somehow I found myself in this position. And then the hour after that, I'm in the hotel taking photos of the room, trying to make sure that we can give better training photos to the room service attendants. So if they come into a room and they want to make something look good, they can have a photo to look at and say, oh, hey, this is how that works. So yeah, a typical week is everything but typical for me. But at the end of the day, there is a core to my job, and that core is print production. Just about anything that has to do with physically distributed materials whether that's flyers, whether that's banners that we hang out in front of the clubhouse, whether that's menus, talking about my involvement with the F&B department. That's definitely kind of where my job comes back to at the end of every day. But yeah, with a diverse set of skills that I've acquired over several years now, it's always something new every day for me.
And that leads me to the next question. So tell me the software programs or the content creation programs that you are proficient in, and I'll bet it's a long list.
It is a pretty healthy list. It started with Microsoft when I was in high school, looking for some extracurricular classes to just fill those gaps that were needed to graduate, and so it started with a Microsoft-based class. Basically, each semester there was a teacher, Barb Bender. Shout out to her if she happens to listen to this podcast. She offered this class where you could basically take each semester was a different Microsoft application, and it kind of hit on the big three. So you learned Word, PowerPoint, and Excel, and so that was where I started to learn those, and then get into college, and now it becomes the Adobe suite. So now you're talking about Adobe InDesign, which is a big layout.
I knew Adobe would show up at some point.
Oh yeah,
right?
it's the core. Yeah, you get into Adobe InDesign for layout, and then you get into Adobe After Effects for your video editing. You got Premiere Pro for your video editing. I mean, I'm just looking at my desktop here on my computer, and I've got 7 or 8 different Adobe apps that are just popped up, ready to go, and just plugging and playing with those. And yeah, so it mostly revolves around the Adobe suite these days. And especially because that suite covers everything. You know what I mean? You got everything from your photo editing to your magazine type layout to your Illustrator, which is hey, you want to design something from absolute scratch, here's basically a drawing program on your computer. So it is a decently long list, but I'd say right now, especially now I'm finding that niche, it's definitely more Adobe than anything else.
If you need help on Audition, I'm your guy because I've taught myself how to use it.
Okay, I will definitely
via this podcast. Yeah. I've become the expert. So it occurs to me from what you just said a second ago about creating videos for new employees, you have both internal and external audiences in your job.
We do.
Okay. Which one takes up more of your time?
I think I'd preface that by saying, the key again to my position is I assist our director of creative storytelling with whatever video and photo work needs to be done. So there will literally be weeks, even months that go by where I don't even touch a camera. And that's just the nature of the job, in that sometimes we just don't have content that we need to get. But that's also a shout out to our creative storytelling director, in that he does a really good job of librarying and creating a library of things that we can then use. So if we need something in a pinch, we don't have to go shoot it right then and there. But for me, it's a pretty decent balance. I think probably about 60-40, leaning toward the internal side, especially on the video and photo side of things. Just because we're well over 1,000 employees across, we've got 9 golf courses now, and while 5 of those are on property at the main clubhouse, you've got 4 other ones that are scattered throughout the general Pinehurst area. And so when you contribute all of those to one overarching Pinehurst resort account, I think someone said we're 1,300 employees strong, maybe even more than that right now. So our HR department is a very busy department, but they're a very connected department as well. They do a really good job of just making sure that people know that they're there, and they do a great job of rewarding people as well. I mean, we have a really great work atmosphere where I think the best way to put it is, at least speaking for my department and the people that I've worked with across some of the other departments, it tends to be the type of atmosphere where if you make a mistake, it's not pointing fingers and yelling and calling people idiots. It's, hey, yep, you messed up. Nobody got killed. Nobody died. Let's talk about how we fix it moving forward. But then on the flip side of that, when you make a positive impact, you do something good, you go above and beyond a little bit, there's rewards for that as well, even though you might not be initially, trying to achieve some type of reward for doing that work. So, yeah, so that's to say that about 60% of that's probably internal. But a decent amount is also for the external audiences as well.
I promised you that you wouldn't have to go deep on Pinehurst Resort, but do you have an idea, I'm sure you do, of how many annual visitors come to Pinehurst, like ballpark?
I don't even want to give an inaccurate number because I have heard that number probably 3 or 4 different times, and I think it's different every time. It's a big number. I mean, especially post-COVID. COVID was huge boost to the golf industry, and
because we stayed open.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
We were the only ones that stayed open.
Exactly right. And I was working at Golf Galaxy at the time that COVID hit, and so I was kind of on the front lines of seeing that, in the sense that we projected every day of what we expected to do for sales, and pre-COVID, Father's Day at Golf Galaxy was always the biggest day of the year. And then you could have a random Thursday afternoon post-COVID where you beat every single year's Father's Day by $20,000. I mean, it just made no sense. With that being the trend now in the golf industry, where we're seeing that massive growth and a pretty sustainable growth at that, the numbers are big and they're growing every day. So, I hate to misrepresent by throwing some crazy number out there.
No worries. I promised you I wouldn't ask you that question, and I did anyway, so that's my fault. That's the interviewer's fault. When you and I were exchanging emails about doing this, you mentioned major tournament season for Pinehurst. And Pinehurst is known, obviously, U.S. Opens, U.S. Women's Opens, USGA Championships. It's known as one of the great major championship venues in the United States. It's also known as one of the great golf tourism destinations.
Absolutely.
It's the buddy trip capital of the world. Yeah. So as someone who's in the marketing function for the resort, how do you balance that? How do you balance, we are the cradle of golf, as you said, but also we're the buddy trip capital of the world. I mean, you've got to work on both sides of that issue, right?
Yeah, I do. And that's honestly part of the reason that, going back to your earlier question, like what's a typical day? That's one of the things that makes every day atypical for me is that, it's such an ebb and flow around here. And, our major tournament season kind of takes place during we're just coming out of it, honestly, over the last several weeks. And, fortunately for us, we partnered with the USGA to help create and host the United States Adaptive Open Championship.
I was actually on the air on Golf Central when that event took place, and what an amazing story that was fantastic.
It's incredible, and I'm going to shout myself out. I made my second Golf Channel debut in the background of one of the shots, so I'm really moving up in the world.
Congratulations. Sure. I'll get that. I'm going to send that to your mom.
Yeah.
Via email.
She actually already has it. I promise you. I was walking out of the locker room at the club, and I looked up and I saw that you guys were running highlights on Golf Channel. I said, I didn't even realize we had Golf Channel cameras out there. And next thing I know, there I am in the background. So took a video of it, sent it to mom. But yeah, so that major tournament season includes, over the last 2 years at least, it included the U.S. Adaptive Open. They're starting to move that around now like the USGA does with a lot of their championships. So I think it's going out to like Nebraska or Iowa for next year. But that's included over the last couple of years. The big one for us is the North-South Championship, both the men's and women's. That's our bread and butter as far as, what Pinehurst was founded on. Richard Tufts is the guy who originally founded the resort and the town, and he was huge into the game of amateur golf, and that was something that he was passionate about. And so the North-South is, I believe, the longest running amateur golf tournament, and we take pride in that. We take pride in the fact that we are able to host a tournament with such high esteem in the amateur golf world. And this year's didn't disappoint. We saw Jackson Van Paris go out on the very first day and shoot the course record on number 4 with a 61. And then, of course, if you follow us on Instagram or on any of our social media, you saw that he went and then broke the Cradle scoring record the other week now. So he's got 2 records in 6 weeks at Pinehurst. So he's on a roll. But then it goes on to include...
I've got to stop you for a second. You have to explain to the uninitiated what the Cradle is.
Oh, yes. So the Cradle is our 9-hole short course at Pinehurst. And... it is just a really nice little easy par 3 course. It's 50 to, I think the longest hole might be 130 yards, but most of the holes are 50 to 80 yards in distance, and it's just a really casual golfing experience. Most people go out and they play with, you take 3 or 4 clubs and a putter with you, and And then a lot of guys go play barefoot out there, and you bring your kids, and just a relaxed atmosphere. There's music playing, so not a major course necessarily in our repertoire, but a record.
It's the post game for the buddy trip.
That's exactly right.
So after you play your 18 at wherever you play at Pinehurst, you go to the Cradle in bare feet, as you said,
Correct.
and
have a couple
maybe
of drinks.
beverage or two.
Exactly. And
right.
and enjoy your time there. So so back to the major tournament season. So we got North-South in there. We had U.S. Adaptive Open. And then I would say the trifecta that really completes it for us is going to be the U.S. Kids. We host the U.S. Kids Worlds Championships every year, and that's not necessarily a Pinehurst Resort specific event. This year it was something like 12 or 1,300 plus competitors across several different divisions. Incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's Pinehurst area courses. So obviously we just don't have the real breadth, as crazy as that might sound, to host all of those kids in it's a 2-week span. But those are kind of the major tournaments that we see on a regular basis. And, we're getting ready now for the North-South senior event. So you got the North-South men's senior and the North-South women's senior coming up here as well. So this is kind of the meat of our season when we talk about what we host. Obviously, we can't really put the U.S. Open in there just because it's been 10 years since our last one. And, we'll get them every couple of years now, starting in 24. But, you get some breaks in there to recuperate and make sure everything gets back to where it needs to be.
But again, circling back to the initial question, how does Pinehurst pull off USGA national championships and buddy trips?
I think there's
as someone who's in the marketing function, that's a huge challenge for you, right?
It is and it isn't. And I think there's one really easy, simple answer to why that is. And the answer is it comes down to our people. We talk about it all the time. Once you get here, the people that we put in front of our guests, the way we train them, the excitement that they have for either the game of golf or the position they're in, those little things are what we think make us different. And because we are a well-recognized brand, within the golf industry for obviously a number of different reasons, we don't necessarily have to go above and beyond to market to some crazy broad audience that we haven't yet tapped into.
That's fair. Okay.
And so as a result of that, we see a significant amount of our guests are repeat guests. But I definitely understand what you're trying to say in that there is this two-headed monster that we kind of face every day of, okay, how do we separate what the guests on the buddy side want to see versus what people want to see on that major championship side? And to be honest, I think one of the best ways we do that is by saying, hey, plan your buddy trip to the place where the best players in the world play. That is an ad we've run before of like, U.S. Opens happen here, so you can come play a U.S. Open course as well.
But they also happen at Pebble Beach and at Bandon Dunes and at Whistling Straits or PGA Championships, whatever. And maybe I'm in the minority, but I feel like Pinehurst has more of the everyman vibe to it than those places do. Like going to Bandon Dunes is a pain in the ass. It's a great golf course. It's a fantastic golf course complex. Don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking them at all, but it's hard work to get there. Whistling Straits is the same thing. I mean, to go to Pinehurst, you fly to Raleigh, Durham, and drive an hour, and you're there.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're all excellent golf courses. I'm not, again, not knocking anything, but it seems like Pinehurst has cornered the market on this concept that I'm describing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah? And to your point, obviously the relative ease that you experience when you want to get here is definitely like the first line of defense that we have in saying, hey, we know you can go to a bunch of different golf resorts across the country or even across the world, but how many of them can you kind of just fly to the airport, which is a pretty easy airport to get into, and then drive 45 to 50 minutes and now you're there? Not a lot of them, right? So that's obviously the first line of defense. But then too, as well, like I was pointing out earlier, once you get here, it's our people. And, like I said, we've very much, associate a large amount of our success to the individual people who work here. And, Yeah, one of the things I heard, which was kind of weird to me when I first started here, was when you check in at the Carolina Hotel, which is our main hotel here on property. It's not even a full half mile right down the road from the main clubhouse. You can literally walk to the main clubhouse.
Right. Right.
When you check in there, people at our front desk will literally say, "Hi, welcome home." And it's that kind of atmosphere. We want you to feel like, yes, you're on vacation, but have I been here before? Do I know that person? Have I been to that pub? Like, there's a sense of familiarity that we try to instill in all of our guests that says, hey, we may have never even seen you before, but we're so happy that you're here, and we want to make sure you have the best possible experience. And because we've been doing that for so long, I think that's really where we now are able to grab that corner market and say, hey, listen, we don't, again, talking about our marketing and advertising, we don't have to necessarily go out and say that's the atmosphere that we promote, because people are just going to say that in general. Hey, I went to Pinehurst and it was so incredible. And, to hammer that point home, my dad came down a couple of weeks ago with my mom and my dad's golf buddy from their club up in Ohio. And we were just chatting on the porch one morning at the Carolina Hotel. And my dad's buddy is a pretty well-traveled golfer. He's played several of those places, like you mentioned, in a lot of resort golf in his day. And my dad's question to him was like, what is it about this place that just makes it different? And that was kind of his answer. He was like, it's just, everybody's so relaxed. Everybody's just happy. There's a smile on your face. The downtown area is so cute and quiet, and all these mom and pop shops. There could be 1,000 people in this place, and even though it's a tiny town, you don't even have to interact with a single person because it's just well laid out. And so, yeah, I think just that atmosphere that we promote is what's helped us over the last several years, yeah, like you said, kind of corner that market and just be able to bring those people in organically.
So we're 20 plus minutes in, and I've not asked you about the USGA's move to Pinehurst yet. So here we go. The USGA, for those who don't know, is building a new headquarters in Pinehurst, North Carolina, which is supposed to open next year, I guess, 2024.
That's correct.
Is that the schedule?
That is correct.
How does that affect your day-to-day? What's the buzz? What's the conversation locally about this whole project?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall it's an exciting thing for many people. I think obviously there's those few people who have their concerns about, well, now you're going to have increased traffic, and do we have the places to put these people? And, those natural concerns that happen every time a major corporation moves to just about any city. But I mean, from what I know, I think everybody's really excited, and it's a 2-for-1 for us in that it also includes the World Golf Hall of Fame right next door. So there's a lot of excitement about that as well, in that, such an iconic Hall of Fame is going to be moving back to where it was actually originally founded. Here in Pinehurst originally is where the World Golf Hall of Fame existed. So we're bringing it back home is what's really cool for us. So the general atmosphere, I think, is really awesome. And realistically, the day-to-day is not too big of an effect right now. They've got that whole area sectioned off, and, there's plenty of trucks and stuff coming in, and parking's been a little bit different now. But they're making such good progress on that thing. They've kind of just, at first it was the big deal of like, hey, let's capture every type of content we can. And, we were at the final beam placing ceremony capturing drone and on-the-ground footage and all these different things that we could then send to the USGA to say, hey, listen, all the beams are set and we're making big headway. And now that they've hit the ground running, I drive by that thing every day, and there's another crazy addition that's been finished. And, today they had stucco up, and they've already got the landscaping in front mostly completed. So it's just every day they're knocking down a little bit more. But yeah, it's not honestly too much of a hindrance, which is obviously a good thing for us that we can just kind of go about business as usual. But it's definitely an exciting thing to have to be able to drive by every morning. I think about, like, I'm 24 years old. I graduated college 2.5, 3 years ago now, and I drive by what's about to be the World Golf Hall of Fame to one of the most storied, clubhouses in the game of golf, and that's my daily basis. So it's a pretty awesome experience for me personally, but I think a lot of other people share that same sentiment for sure.
Well, it sounds like you appreciate it, and I hope you do, because it is pretty incredible. You and I have something in common in that we both live in areas that are dominated by tourism. Mm-hmm. Everybody visits where we live. Mm-hmm. So what is it like to live in an area that is dominated by visitors?
Yeah, you know what? I'm quite used to it now. Going to school in Charleston, South Carolina, one of the most visited cities in the world.
Also a tourism
Yeah,
haven, you're right.
exactly.
Yep.
So I think that was my big awakening to the tourism industry for sure. And Pinehurst is a much smaller town than Charleston, so the amount of people we take in on a yearly basis is significantly less than a Charleston type city. But for me, I think it's really cool. I mean, one of the things that I always think is really funny is we have shuttles that run around the property, and they run you to the off-site properties as well if you're going to play like number 8 or number 9 that's not housed with the main clubhouse. But we also have shuttles that run to the airport. So if you need a ride from the airport, we can come pick you up there too. And one of the first lines that you'll get from many of our chauffeurs and our shuttles is, "Hey, where are you from?" And, we got that this morning. My buddy and I got in the shuttle to go across the street to go start doing these photos for the BMW stuff we're working on. And this guy, we hadn't seen him before, and he goes, "Hey, where are you guys from?" "Oh, upstairs. We work here."
Right over
Yeah,
there.
about 25 feet away.
Across the street.
And so
Right.
it was funny, though, because there's moments like that that'll happen that make me realize, again, talking about the people here, is like these people, I'm terrible. I don't wear a name tag very often, but even if I do, a lot of these people still have the same demeanor of like treating you like a guest and just making you feel comfortable. Yeah, it's pretty interesting to be in an area where you get so many different people. But it's also funny because I will, not too infrequently, I will run into someone that I know. I'll be like walking out on the golf course and, "Hey, that's a guy I competed against high school golf in," or, "Hey, that was one of my high school golf teammates," or, "I met that guy at a business meeting." So it's also cool to just be in a place where like I can walk out my office door and run into someone I haven't seen in 5 years. So it's pretty awesome. And I'm an extroverted guy. So getting to meet new people and interacting with different people from different parts of this country, different countries altogether. And obviously, as a golfer, the one thing most of us share is we have a passion for golf. We love the game. We want to be around the game. So it's a pretty easy conversation starter. Like, "Hey, you must love golf if you're here. Let's talk about what made you come to Pinehurst. Why you want to play here? Why do I live here?" So I love getting to meet all those different people and just learning and growing through those interactions.
What do you like about it the most? What's your favorite part of the job?
I mean, it's hard to beat $5 golf. I mean, let's just cut to the chase.
Wait, stop.
Yeah.
Stop. $5
Yeah.
golf?
So as an employee, we enjoy a long list of benefits here, and one of those is $5 golf. You can't really beat
I'm speechless.
that. Yeah, you can't.
At all of the
that
courses?
is correct. All of the golf courses. Now, I should preface this by saying, of course, we are only allowed access to certain courses on certain days. And if you want to play like our crown jewel courses, like 2 or 4, then you gotta go through some more of a process to get approvals for that. But
so what? It's $10.
no, it's still $5.
Like,
you just got to ask a bunch of people
God.
to, "Hey, can I get on number 2?" And of course, number 2 is like always sold out. So they're like, "Well, how about 12 weeks from now or something crazy?" But I mean, the benefits of the job certainly are big. But I mean, to be just genuinely honest, past the more superficial side of things like that, to me, my favorite part of the job is just the fact that I get to do something I love every day. I had never really sat down and thought about a way to combine my passion for the creative world and my passion for golf. And I had actually spent most of my life very intentionally separating those two. I had always said, okay, I'm either going to go be a professional golfer or I'm going to go be in art, but the two can't mutually coexist because art's the fallback. Graphic design's the fallback. So if I'm doing graphic design full time, that means I must have failed in golf. And I'm seeing now that doesn't have to be the case, but I'm also seeing, okay, I get to be in the golf industry every day, which is, just an absolute dream for me. I get to be surrounded by people who are just an absolute pleasure to work with and work under and everything else in between. But I also do something I'm passionate about in the graphic design space and in the creative world that gives me the opportunity to continue to feed that side of my interest. So on the realest level possible, just the blessing it is to be able to do something I love, surrounded by people who I enjoy being with and who enjoy being with me on the flip side. That's really probably the thing that makes me just get out of bed every morning with a smile on my face.
In just a few seconds, we'll have some closing thoughts on this episode, so stay tuned. If you're enjoying it so far, please consider subscribing or sharing and leave a review. Let me know what you'd like to hear in the future on Media Credentials. One note on the U.S. Adaptive Open. That's a relatively new USGA national championship for physically and neurologically impaired golfers. Pinehurst hosted the event its first 2 years, 2022 and 23. We also talked about the North and South Amateur. That dates back to 1901 at Pinehurst. In 2021, Moore County, which includes the villages of Pinehurst, Southern Pines, and Aberdeen, saw $673 million in visitor spending, a 70% increase from the pandemic year of 2020. Overall, the tourism industry employs more than 5,000 people in Moore County alone. Nathan's story is a reminder, number one, that sports media takes on many different forms, and number two, the potent financial impact of sports and recreation. Thanks again for listening to Media Credentials. For examples of my work, including video and audio clips, a blog, and my contact page, check out whitwatson.com.